pornography. I just was at a conference in Princeton University, and there's published papers. I delivered a paper at that conference on pornography. One of the major problems in the United States of America, pornography addiction. It destroys families. It causes impotence. Males become impotent after they get addicted to pornography. 10 years of addiction, they've lost their potency. So what got them in it ends up being destroyed anyway. These are major problems that are going on now. And you're from a culture, this culture is a culture of modesty, and modesty is a beautiful quality. Europeans and Americans used to be very modest people, and there still are some modest people, undeniably. There's many good Christian people, there's many good, even secular people that have basic modesty and things, but many people now, they've completely lost their sense of shame and do things publicly that would have never been done even 20 years ago. Even 20 years ago. I mean, I see bumper stickers all over California with foul words on them, as if children weren't around, I mean, my kids sometimes ask me, I've got a five-year-old kid that's starting to read, and he sees words that, I can't even explain to him what they mean because there's no shame. And I believe in preserving innocence of children. I don't want to see a sexualized culture where naked women or naked men are all over the place, and before children are ready to even grasp what these things mean. And it's not like Aboriginal cultures, because there's Aboriginal cultures that don't have the same problems in a culture that's manipulating people sexually. Go ahead.
Don't video games have any advantages?
Yeah, there are. Like if you're going to go into surgery, then there's certain manual dexterity skills. Like you get very good at certain skills that you can do. If you're going into law enforcement, a lot of kids that play with those video games get very accurate. In fact, we had a kid in Virginia who shot 8 kids at school. And he got headshots on every single one of the kids. When the FBI came to examine it, they were amazed at this kid's marksmanship. It turned out that his father had bought him as a present a game that you got, the headshots were given the highest awards in the game. So he had actually mastered killing people in a video game, and then he just went to school one day with his father's gun, and he killed all these kids with headshots that he learned on the video game. So if you're going to go into the army, it's probably, there's some benefits like that. But those benefits to me are the harm is greater. And in our tradition, al-maslaha, which is benefit, is always looked at mafsada. You weigh the two. What's called dar al-mafsada wa jalb al-maslaha, avoiding harm and accruing benefit. If the harm is worse, then you avoid it. And if the benefit's greater, then you do it. And to avoid harm is preferred over accruing benefit. So harm is considered first before benefit. So there are benefits, undeniably. Go ahead.
Some children are poor. How could they go to school so they can study?
What's that?
Some people are poor.
Yeah.
Poor. How could they go study?
A lot of them can't. There's children all over the world now that are they're laborers as children. It's happening all over the world. South Africa has a massive problem with child labor. India has a massive problem with child labor. Really, even in Egypt, the Zabaloon, the kids that go out and collect garbage. We have this problem everywhere. In Morocco, there's kids that are your age that are working full-time, 15-hour days. And that comes with social justice and a concern for others. So people like you, as you get older, you have to have commitments to changing those conditions. First, in your own place. It's always better to fix the place that you're at and then extending that out. But you're lucky, you're fortunate that you don't have that problem. You're here, so utilize your time.
And plus they find it very cruel, being so strict. They say that's our leisure time, that's our free time. So do you have any other alternatives to make it?
Well, Yeah, there's a lot of books in the United States that have been written on this that I wish the Arabs would kind of look at and translate into Arabic, like 365 things to do with your children that don't involve television. You know, that's a book. You know, it gives you a lot of ideas, like things you can actually do. Young people like to do lots of things. You know, my kids do archery. My 2 oldest sons are black belts in karate. You know, they've been doing martial arts. There's a lot of things that you can do that are really interesting. One of my sons is a painter. You know, he has oil paints. He actually paints amazing things, and he's 15 years old. You know, that was something he was interested in. We encouraged it because he showed talent and he was interested in, and I'd much rather have him doing that than wasting his time doing other things, because it's creative, it's imaginative. Einstein said if you want to have intelligent children, then develop their imagination. Painting is a great way of developing imagination. He does amazing pictures, really creative things. So there's lots of things you can do, but you have to be actively engaged with your children. A Shaikh has a poem about the yatim is not the one whose parents die. It's the one whose mother is ignorant and the father's too busy to be taking care of him. That's the real orphan, right? So you have to be engaged in raising your children, but it's a amana. People should not have children if they're not going to raise them to be good kids, because we all have to suffer the consequences of all these kids that grow up without real parenting and real education, and they end up, you know, the criminal class and all these Wall Street people that have no morals at all. Where did they grow up? Who was teaching them? You know, who was instilling in them a sense of right and wrong? My mother instilled in me right and wrong. She's a Christian woman with very strong moral principles. From an early age, I was told right from wrong. Not with religion. She didn't even associate it with religion. You just told the truth, and she lived that. She always was truthful in everything she did. That's what I learned from my mother. Be truthful, be upright, be honest. You know, respect other people, irrespective of who they are. Whether they're South Asian, Indian, some of the Arabs here treat the Indians like dirt. One day you'll find when India becomes a major power, it could happen in your lifetime. You'll be down there after all the oil's gone and there's nothing here, some of the Emiratis, you might be down there trying to get a job in an Indian corporation, and some of those guys are going to remember how their father was treated when he was working here. What comes around goes around. تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. I mean, that's not a reason to be good to Indians, but it's a reality. So even from a pragmatic perspective, it might be a good idea just to treat people a little better than you're treating them. Filipinos here, some of them are treated like dirt. Some of the maids here are treated like they're subhuman. These are human beings. They had mothers and fathers. You know, they have emotional. I mean, I asked a maid in a house I was staying in a neighboring country. I won't say which one. I just asked her how she was doing, and she started crying. Literally started crying. You know, there's things going on. God knows what's going on. But Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's a big day. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ لِيَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. People don't think they're going to أَيَحْسِبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَنْ يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. People think they're just going to be left without any judgment. It's not true. Go ahead.
In what age does the kid, his mind gets okay for cell phones?
Well, cell phone, like I said, the research is still out. They don't know. Most of the studies that the cell phone companies did were in ideal situations. Because, for instance, if you have a cell phone here and the actual radiation is coming through your brain, that's different from when it's coming that way. So it just depends. I mean, there's ideal conditions. Most of the studies that the cell phone companies did were in ideal conditions. And I have a friend who's a CEO of a cell phone company, so I know I got this from firsthand, right? So we don't know if it's safe at all, but generally before the age of about 15, because the brain, the jum-jum, you know, the skull is developing. So before that, if you're going to use it, even for adults, they should be used. It's better to use it with an earphone. Keep it away from the body. That's what they say. Hold it away from the body. Or use it with the voice on. Or text. A lot of young people prefer to text anyway. Texting is safer than that. But radiation is real. It's radiation. It's low-grade radiation, but it's radiation. People keep it in their pockets. We don't know how it's going to affect fertility rates. You know, la haya'a fi din, the male sperm count around the globe is half of what it was 50 years ago. So we know that, you know, fertility rates are being seriously affected. They think it has to do with plastics because plastics are estrogen mimickers. And so all this plastic that everybody's living in, everything's plastic, your car's plastic, a lot of people wearing polyester, that is actually affecting our bodies. You know, so there's a lot of very troublesome things going on. But generally, I'd be very careful. You should not be spending a lot of time on a cell phone. Use it for emergencies. If you have a cell phone, they're useful tools, but I would use it for emergencies. I have a cell phone in my car. I don't like to use cell phones to talk on.
If in